If you figured this Chargers offseason was going to be a straight shot at fix the offense, yeah, today had other plans. There's something being floated that could change how defenses have to play Justin Herbert once the ball starts coming out with pace. There's a forgotten kind of weapon that could sneak into being a third down lifeline. There's a draft projection that's going to split Bolt fam clean in half. And there's a real tug of war happening in the background that could decide if this defense stays nasty or loses the brain that keeps it running on time. Quick favor before we dive in. Hit like, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments, because I can already see the argument forming down there. Which one of those clues has you the most on edge right now? Because the obvious storyline has felt almost too obvious. You've got Herbert. You've got Mike McDaniel in the building to bring some real innovation and give this offense an identity. You've got Omarion Hampton as a young back trending up. You're hoping Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater are back healthy next season. So naturally, the assumption is April shows up and the Chargers go offense. More help, more protection, more juice. Simple, right? And that's why the next part lands like a splash of cold water. Mel Kiper at ESPN has the Chargers at number 22 taking a defensive tackle. Peter Woods out of Clemson. Yeah, defense. In a season where Jesse Minter's unit finished top 10 and honestly stabilized a lot of weeks for this team. And I can hear the pushback already. Why are we doing this when the offense is the one that has to carry a playoff run? Good teams don't draft like they're frantic. They draft like they're trying to win in January. Kiper's angle on Woods is basically a buy low on high-end talent play. Woods looked like a top 10 pick going into the season. Then the production dipped, and now he's sitting outside the top 20. That slide is the whole point. You're betting the traits are real. Strength, versatility, true 3 technique ability. Someone who, when he's right, can wreck an opponent's game plan from the inside. Not with hype, with disruption. And that kind of disruption is not some luxury item, it's a playoff tool. It turns third and long into a bad decision. It makes quarterbacks speed up their eyes. It messes with protections. It makes edge rushers look faster because the pocket can't step up and reset. When you're trying to compete with the best quarterbacks in this conference, the goal isn't play solid defense and hope. The goal is to create chaos when you choose to create it. There's also a very real roster layer here. Te'er Tart is a free agent. If he walks, you're not just replacing snaps, you're trying to keep a standard. This defense didn't click by accident. Tui Polo 2 took a major leap. Odafe Owe was a smart early season trade pickup. Khalil Mack battled back from a serious injury and showed there's still tread on the tires. But if you build your entire plan on everyone repeating peak seasons, regression eventually shows up because that's how the league works. Depth matters, interior pressure matters, and if Harbaugh and Minter can get Woods back to that top-end version, you're not drafting a DT, you're drafting a problem. So I'm putting it right on the table, Bolt fam. Would you rather lock in a suffocating defense that can travel and win ugly? Or do you feel like any first-round pick that isn't offense is burning precious years of Herbert's prime? Because if Woods turns into what he was supposed to be, your offense doesn't have to be perfect every single week. But if he's just another body in the rotation, then yeah, that frustration is going to be loud. And while everybody's arguing about that curveball in the draft, there's a quieter name floating around, one that probably won't dominate headlines, but could absolutely change how a drive survives on Sundays. Greg Dulcich. Yep, that Greg Dulcich. Former Broncos tight end came out of UCLA as this exciting pass-catching mismatch. And then injuries basically put his career on pause before it ever got momentum. Over time, he slid out of the main NFL conversation. But last season, he ended up on the Dolphins practice squad, got real playing time because injuries forced the issue, and he actually made it count. He finished with 26 catches, 335 yards, and a touchdown. And here's the part Chargers fans should underline. 18 receptions for 222 yards over the final 5 games. That's not a build the offense around him stat line. It's not supposed to be. It's proof he can help when the ball has to come out and you need answers over the middle. Pro Football Focus graded him at 77.4, mostly because of what he can do as a receiver. Nobody should pretend he's going to be a tone-setting run blocker. That's not his calling card. But as a rotational tight end with pass-catching upside, And it becomes even more interesting when you zoom out to the Chargers' tight end room. Oronde Gadsden II is the future. That's the direction. But the present is a little foggy because Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin have uncertain futures. If you're trying to build an offense that stays on schedule, especially with McDaniel, having a tight end who can win a route and be a reliable outlet matters way more than people admit. I'm not even trying to be dramatic here. Think about the games where it's 3rd and 7 and everything feels cramped. You're begging for one clean completion, the kind that keeps the drive alive and keeps your defense on the sideline. Pass-catching tight ends live in that world. They force linebackers and safeties to make choices. And when the middle of the field has teeth, the entire offense breathes easier. And I already know what's going to happen in the comments. One side is going to say, cool, but we need stars. The other side is going to look at Dulcich like a low-risk swing with upside. Because if the cost is reasonable and the role is clear, 3rd downs, red zone, moving the chains, you're not asking him to be a savior. You're asking him to be useful. Sometimes that's the difference between punting and points. That's not poetry, that's football. Now, speaking of moves that won't win off-season champion online, there's another one that could quietly save a Sunday when things get messy. Cole Strange. Let's be crystal clear. If the Chargers brought in Cole Strange to be the unquestioned starting guard in 2026, that would be a mistake. Full stop. But as a swing guard, interior depth, that's a completely different conversation. His career hasn't gone the way people expected when the Patriots took him in the first round of the 2022 draft. That's just the truth. The pressure hit early, the performance didn't match the slot, and after 3 rough seasons in New England, he ended up in Miami and had an okay year. Not great, not a disaster, functional. And for a backup lineman, functional can be everything. Strange has shown he can be a good run blocker at the NFL level. Pass protection is where the concerns live. But he did start playing better as the year went on, and McDaniel has publicly praised him in the past. That's not nothing. Coaches don't keep complimenting the guy unless there's something there they believe can be developed, especially in a system they trust. Now, put that into the Chargers' context. Getting Alt and Slater back healthy raises your ceiling, no doubt. But it doesn't erase risk. Offensive line depth isn't optional in this league. Injuries happen. The game is violent. And when you lose a guard mid-game, you don't get to call a timeout and invent a new protection plan from scratch. You either have someone who can survive snaps, or you watch your quarterback take hits and the whole offense tighten up. Strange wouldn't need to walk into LA with starters stamped on his helmet. A 1-year deal, a defined backup role, development under McDaniel, maybe even with Frank Smith too, could put him in a better situation than he's had. Less pressure, more structure, more clarity, and yeah, I can already hear some of you. That's it? But teams that make playoff pushes don't only chase shiny names. They build redundancy. They build margin. They avoid the season-derailing collapse that happens when one injury turns into a chain reaction. And while we're talking about stabilizing the roster, there's a bigger question hovering over the entire building, one that could reshape this team more than any depth signing ever will. Jesse Minter. Is he going to be back next year? Or not? It's not exaggeration to say this decision can swing the trajectory of 2026 more than most mid-tier free agents could. Minter has been stellar under Harbaugh. 2 years of a defense with a real identity, organized, aggressive, disciplined, and fast with adjustments. The league noticed. His name turned into the heavyweight of this off-season market. It felt like every opening brushed shoulders with him at some point. Baltimore has always looked like the cleanest fit on paper. He coached there before. There's the Harbaugh brothers connection. The Ravens have ties to Chargers GM Joe Hortiz, so it's familiar. It lined up. Minter recently spent time with the Ravens too. But here's the twist in the story. According to Josina Anderson, he left Baltimore Wednesday night without a deal. That doesn't mean it's dead. It means it's not done. The Ravens are moving at their pace, and that pace could stretch, maybe even past the Super Bowl. The Athletic's Jeff Zrebiec wrote, they're up to 16 names as candidates. 16! That's not a quick decision. And the longer Baltimore drags its feet, the more it quietly favors the Chargers, because continuity matters. Same system, same language, same standards. That's how you avoid starting over and losing months just to get back to where you were. Then there's the other possibility that Chargers fans don't even like saying out loud. Las Vegas has interviewed a bunch of candidates too, and Minter got a second interview 2 days ago. And it's just strange, right? Staying in the AFC West and lining up against the Chargers twice a year. Seeing Herbert across the field. And while you're at it, still dealing with Mahomes, with Bo Nix rising in Denver. With this division staying a fight every season, the Raiders do have the first overall pick, which screams rebuild with a real foundation. But rebuilds are promises. And Minter has earned the right to be picky. From the outside, it almost feels like if the only serious door is Las Vegas, he might lean towards staying in LA instead. Because in LA, he's got stability, alignment with Harbaugh, a roster trending up, and a quarterback that gives you a path to meaningful football. But we're not there yet. And that waiting game, it's brutal for Bolt fam. Every day without clarity is another day you're wondering if you're keeping the brain of a top 10 defense or watching someone else hire it away. So when we zoom out, this wasn't just one headline day. It was a direction day, a draft projection that could shock people, offensive swings that might look small right now but matter in real football moments, depth that keeps everything from collapsing, and a coaching decision that might decide whether this defense stays elite. So here's what I want from you in the comments. If you had to choose, are you prioritizing defensive security, keeping this unit nasty and reliable, or are you going all in on offensive firepower to maximize Herbert right now? Drop your take. And if you're riding with this team, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and make sure you're back tomorrow. Because the next chapter in this offseason is going to tell us a lot about what the Chargers really are.